and welcome. My name is Natalie Weinstein. I'm an interior designer, and I'm your host today for the Generation Connection, the show that explores change and the power of youth and present-day professionals working together. I'm very excited about today's show because I have two very interesting young people who I'm going to chat with and who I think will help me to understand the goals, the hopes and aspirations of young people today in a way that can only come from the young people themselves, not my interpretation as a mother, as a mentor, but the real deal. So I want to welcome you, Caitlin Riley, and you, Lauren Starr, to the show. And I want to just call the show today the Generation Connection. Do you think there is one, actually? You think there is a connection between the generations or an interconnect between the generations? I'm going to ask you both about that. Larry, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, there has to be a connection between the generations. There has to be a connection between the people who have experience and the people who can bring new things to the market. And basically both can build off one another to make a better business and create a well-rounded network.
Do you think that that type of connection carries through into families today?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of families where the father will obviously pass down the business to his son, and that son will pass it down to them. But even today, though, that model is sort of changing because the businesses themselves are changing. So something that might have been profitable or actually usable 30 years ago might not be so today. So you're seeing more that changing.
Larry, how old are you?
17.
I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but do you go to high school?
Yeah, I'm a senior in Burton Academy.
And you have hopes and aspirations to go to college?
Yeah.
And what do you think your college experience is going to help you to do and see in the next 4 years after high school?
Well, basically, most people think of college as an extension of high school. I know most people think of it as a requirement. I see college as basically a way of learning everything that you'll need. Not everything, but a lot of information that you'll need for later life, and also learning about people in general and creating networks which you can use.
Caitlin, how old are you?
I'm 17.
You go to high school?
Yep. Burton Academy.
And do you plan to go on to college?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a major in mind?
I've been considering biomedical sciences and also pre-med as a major.
That's a long road ahead
yeah.
of you. What inspired you to think of going in that direction?
I've always felt a need to give back to people and to help people in any way I can. So medicine has always been, and science in general has always been something I've been very interested in. So I thought it would be something I could do with the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. When I was a little girl and I got sick, my mommy called the doctor and the doctor came to the house. Did a doctor ever come to your house in your entire 17 years of age?
Oh, never.
Right. What do you think the future of medicine today holds for people like yourself who have such a hard road to go forward in to creating your dream?
I mean, it's a very competitive business to go into, and it's becoming more technologically savvy. And, most things are done through machines, robots, and I think it's limitless of what can come about with these new minds coming into the field. I mean, there's the experience of everyone who's had years and years of practice, but there's also the new innovations coming about from our generation.
Do you think the doctor who came to the house or the doctors today who don't have this world knowledge are dinosaurs?
I mean, they're not dinosaurs. They've made it this far. They went through the learning and all the college experience, and they have the work experience that they've needed to be the doctor that came to your house and help you. So they're not dinosaurs, they know what they're doing, but we have the technological aspect on our side.
So, in terms of the future, Larry, and the college connection, if you will, that connects you to a larger world of networking, as you alluded to,
Yep.
and also learning skills that you were not able to learn because of it's not a high school experience. How do you see your future goals and career? Do you have something in mind?
Yeah, in the future I plan to connect college students to businesses and sort of an intermediary, sort of to help in the process, help both the college students and the businesses.
That's a noble goal. So you want to be an entrepreneur,
I guess you can say that.
right? And do you feel that, I know I open the paper every day and I'm in awe of young people, maybe 17 years of age, maybe just a little bit older, who have come up with this new idea or this new invention or this new concept. Or I was just reading on the plane flying up here about a young man who was very much affected by the death of his father, who he was very close to, who was a man who worked hard all of his life, who struggled, didn't make much money, and he wanted to commemorate him in a certain way. And so he remembered the one thing that stuck out in his mind about his dad was the fact that his father always kept his word. If he said he was going to do something, he did it. Do you think that's a sort of an old-fashioned value?
Yeah, actually, I think that's changing more and more as we go on to the world. Now people are saying they'll do one thing, and sometimes they go off into their own way and doing other things. Life is obviously changing in that respect.
What about you, Caitlin? Do you think that's something that's sort of like a hokey thing to remember a person by, that it doesn't have much value today?
It has a ton of value. Like, following through with what you promise is an important characteristic, and today it has been on the decline with a younger generation because people jump from one idea to the next, and sometimes things fall through the cracks.
Mm-hmm. So things like loyalty, integrity, words that sometimes and role models. Do you think there are role models anymore? And if so, who are they for you? Larry?
Of course there are role models. They're the kids that actually go on to do things. They try to make a positive change in their world. All the people that start their own companies. Mark Zuckerberg is a big role model to me. He basically created a new market in the social media industry. And yeah, all those technological people I'm very impressed with, and I look up to them for my own entrepreneurial goals.
What about the values of people in government today, in society in general? How do you see those marrying with the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world?
That touches upon controversial issues. I mean, obviously it's been said that politics has become less and less genuine, and there's more and more corruption in it. So that's sort of a value that's declining. But in the future, I hope that we can start to gain a little more self-dependency. And
Do you think young people can change that, can turn things around in our country, in the world, not only in business, but in the core values that were once the hallmark of who we were as a nation, and which doesn't seem to have much going for it in today's world? What do you think, Caitlin? Is that possible?
I think if we start now and to cause this change in our generation, that we'll be able to bring back those core aspects of generations before us. But at this moment, it's very hard for our young people these days to follow through with these core values that we've seen from the past.
What do you think young people need today from the generations that are now sort of running who are the titans of industry, government, and society. What do you want from us to help you to maybe make those changes?
Well, obviously, people in the older generation, they have more experience, but that's not necessarily what makes them good at giving young people advice, because something, like I said, there's change, and something that was done 30 years ago might not be applicable today. So what they can most offer is that they've seen how everything works, so they can pass down that information.
Or doesn't work.
Or doesn't work. They can pass down their experiences without passing down their methodology, if you know what I mean.
Maybe not to be so judgmental
Exactly.
of the new things, and be able to be open to change while still giving you the best of what they've had in terms of their work experience and maybe life experience.
It's a two-way street. They can learn something from the students as well.
There was an old song that said in The King and I, as a teacher I've been learning, but forgive me if I boast, because, you know, from the students I've been learning more than I've taught, which is paraphrased, of course. But I think that perhaps today, I know for myself as a professional, I've been a mentor for about 40 years, almost all the time that I've been a professional designer. I've met in that mentoring program lots of young people. And while the profession of design has changed because of the technology that's involved, the core value or the mission of what we do to make lives better for people through their homes has not changed. Some people get it, others do not. I think in every aspect of life, as a young person, you struggle to be heard for who you are and not be lumped together with a generation of people who are either ineffectual, who are lazy, who don't take on responsibility, who, you know, we can say all the negatives. And then we meet, you know, young people like yourselves, and you stand out as a hallmark for those who are just not like that. Do you feel you are different from your classmates or peers?
No, I don't think we're completely different. I feel like everybody has the same potential as we do. It's just that some people go one step further and try to create the change that they want.
Would you do that? Will you take that one step further and try to create that change, Larry?
I'll do everything in my power to.
What about you, Caitlin?
Yes.
How do you think that society will be affected by these changes in general? Can you even venture to guess? I know for myself, if you would have said to me 20 years ago that I would be able to be here today and leave the studio, blog to all of the people who listen to me and watch me, and comment on all kinds of things today, I would have laughed. There would have been no way. Maybe I would have faxed something back to my office or written something to put into a magazine or a newspaper. I had no clue what the world would be like now, professionally and privately. Can you even venture to guess what might be coming up in the next decade or two, when you will be the generation that might be passing the torch to someone else?
Well, yeah, obviously, with the advent of new social media, which I predict will be on the rise in the future, there'll be much more networks that are not necessarily closed to one particular area, but they'll be worldwide networks with kids of the same qualities working together to try to create something, and the network itself change to include more people, and the transfer of information, ideas will be able to travel to everybody more easily.
Caitlin, what do you think?
Yeah, as there's an increase in the social media aspect for our future, I feel like we'll be able to spread ideas from here to across the world and be able to create a network between those people and be able to really create something to change how we live in our world today.
It's a hard place to leave to the younger generation because there are things we never expected to occur in the world that are there today. It's like when I took my family and visited Israel many years ago. I wondered to myself, how do people live under the sword and threat of war every single day and go about the business of living? And sometimes today I wonder how people can stay positive and hopeful and plan for a positive future when there are so many things in the world that are kind of scary. And I imagine that if I'm a little scared for my family and my children and so on, what must it be like for you guys? Do you think of it in those terms, or do you just know that things can get better and you're going to help make it that way? I'm just curious to know.
Well, one of the things that is certainly the challenge for most young people is the amount of uncertainty that's in the future. Obviously, everything's changing much faster than we can even imagine. People that are going in to study business or going out to be waiters, I mean, the job market is certainly something that scares a lot of young people, which is why I want to try to create some sort of interconnect between the job market and the students. But anyway, it's basically uncertainty that scares most people.
You want to go to medical school.
Mm-hmm.
You think you have a shot at it, or is it going to be an uphill battle all the way?
I think it's an uphill battle for everyone, though. We're all starting at the bottom and we're trying to work our way up, gain the experience we need to be able to go through with our goals.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to put in the effort and do your hardest to get there.
Do you feel you have support systems?
What do you mean by support systems?
Family that's supportive of you, friends who can be helpful. Do you surround yourself with people that you think can help you in a positive manner?
Absolutely. It's all about who you know. It's all about the people that will be mentors to you, all about the people who basically will try to lead you in the right direction. It's important to have people like that, and fortunately I do have people like that who can lead me.
Caitlin?
Yeah, it's important to have a supportive family and friends, and just surround yourself with positive people that encourage you to go through with your goals. And I have that in my house, and yeah.
And I think you two are lucky kids, but I think also your parents are lucky people too, because you start with the clay. Here's the clay, and you try to mold the clay. As a good parent, you can do that. If the end result is something that you don't know when a child is born, how it's going to turn out, it's always a little scary for the parents too. In your case, I think that your parents have done a very good job in bringing up responsible young people who are not only bright and intelligent, but who have the right kinds of values. I think one of the things we need to do in terms of both professional and personal lives as the generation that's passing the torch along is to be there for encouragement and allow you to fly. Sometimes change is very hard, and kids are more up for it than maybe we are, because then the old way of doing things is threatened. And one of the things I love to do is surround myself with people younger than myself, because they have a certain energy. And if they can keep up with me, they're really good. But the life of a person, the values that a person has both professionally and in business, come from the life experiences you start out with. And from then, you learn to achieve your goals, or not. You know, they say that today is the hardest generation, that people your age may never be able to own their own homes. That's pretty scary. But what's the answer? How do you feel that for you two personally, the future will not hold that?
Basically, one of the things you need to do in order to prevent that is to start at an early age. I mean, a lot of kids today have people saying you can't do this right away. You need certain experience before you can go off into your own ventures. So basically, your whole potential is hindered by that. The way of just going out there and trying something, thinking what's the worst that can happen, and hoping that you can take off, or if not, you can try again. That's the mentality that kids are going to have in the future. And they're going to have to start a lot earlier than they are now.
I think that's the mentality that people have to have in general, not just kids. Because if you want to make changes in life, you will move forward. If you are where you are and you don't want to go anyplace else, you're really moving backward, wouldn't you say?
Exactly.
Caitlin, what do you think?
I think to go forward, there seems to be like a set way of like how to live your life. Like there's an order for us to like go about things. You get married, buy a house, have children, and as it seems nowadays, those things are being pushed back because of the way that the economy is today, and it's like harder to like own your own home and like start a family. So we have to, as Lawrence said, we had to start early, start now, and be able to plan for our future. And yeah, it's going to be hard, but you have to plan and be able to like expect the worst but hope for the best. And if something goes wrong, try again.
You know, when I talk to my clients about a home that we want to build for them, I tell them they need two things, a plan and a plan. The first is the plan of how to go about getting it, and the second is the floor plan or the roadmap. I think you guys have sort of got the roadmap going. I think you've also got the plan in place. And I think that if we had more young people who were able to listen to what you have to say and, more importantly, relate to it, I think the world would be a better place than we've left it for you at this very moment. Larry, I wish you great success in business. I think your entrepreneurial spirit and your focus are to not only be commended, but also to be admired as an example for people much older than you. Caitlin, I think that if your education allows you to move forward into the field of medicine, in a new day, in a new world, perhaps some of the things that we fear today as catastrophic diseases will not be here anymore. But knowing the world as I do, from having lived just a little bit longer than both of you, I know that there will be problems that come up, issues that you will have to deal with, not only in your personal life, but in society as well. Can you give me a hint as to your best coping skills? What's the best way that you have to cope with a problem when it does arise? Whoever wants to start. Larry?
Basically, you have to treat it like just another step in your life. It's just another roadblock that gets in your way. You just have to get over it and move on.
Caitlin?
I feel like you have to find a way around it, find different solutions, and pick the one that will benefit you the most and make you go on to your goals for success.
It's not chocolate ice cream, a good movie, and a whole bag of pretzels? That works for me sometimes, I'll tell you the truth, but I think coping is seeing the glass half full instead of half empty. And you said it before very well. What's the worst that can happen? You make a mistake, pick yourself up, and start again. When you're young enough to realize that and keep a positive attitude, I think that the opportunities do arise. If you were to pass along advice to kids your own age as to what you would think they could or should be doing that has worked for you or that could help them to focus on the positives of life in a society when a lot of kids are involved with a lot of issues today, bullying, stressors at home, families where parents don't live together anymore, and they've got to sort of keep an even keel. You guys are very centered for 17. Can you give some advice to some people out there who are your peers that you might even run into every day in school that you see making huge mistakes that might affect their future?
Well, I feel like you have to find something that you're passionate about, and you have to put all your effort into it. And there are hard times at home and in life, but if you stay focused and stay on the track that you've set for yourself, there are ways to overcome those challenges.
What do you think, Larry?
I think the goal is all lies within adaptability. Obviously, the world's going to change, and life's not necessarily going to follow the path that you want it to take, but you have to adjust, and you have to try to make it, lead it to where you can do your best work and prosper the most.
My mother once told me when I was very young that if I was a good girl, I ate all my vegetables, and I went to school and got good grades, that I would live happily ever after. When she was about 80, some trauma in my family occurred, and I went to my mother and I said, Mom, you told me that if I were a good girl, I ate all my vegetables, went to school, did all of this, that I would live happily ever after. And she said something to me which was very prophetic. She said, so I lied. And I said, what? She said, if I would have told you how the end came out, would you have wanted to have taken the journey? Well, you can't see the end, and you're just starting on your journey. But I think for both of you, that journey has got to come out with a happy ending, because you're going to make it so, one way or another. And on the days when it isn't, perhaps your coping skills will help get you through to another place and time. I have to honestly say, this was really a pleasure for me, talking with both of you today. I think that some of us take the impression of what young people are today and carry it with us in our relationships with people like you. And I think that's a big mistake. You set that example for me. And I hope for all of you out there too. This is Natalie Weinstein, your host for today on the Generation Connection. See you next time.